Hey everyone, so I'm really excited because today we're going from the scheduled programming and we're going to be doing some more deeper diving into consulting related stuff with ChatGPT, and I'm so excited because I'm joined by Kasey.
Hello, thank you for having me. I look forward to speaking a bit about consulting, the sales process, and helping CIOs and beyond pick the right ERP.
And for those of you who don't know you've had a fantastic career. You've worked in Canada, you went to the Middle East. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I lucked out after grad school finding my way into being an independent consultant working on major ERP initiatives, and then actually found myself from ERP initiatives to joint venture programs, M&A, and supporting clients with everything from Salesforce solutions, again, back to the M&A space. In my former life, I worked a lot in sales, and what I was seeing, especially in the ERP space, is we're moving away from decision making from the typical chief information officer to putting some of the decisions down to maybe finance heads, HR folks, etc., who might not be as well versed in the technology space. So these folks can sometimes be tasked with requests to say, hey, we need to upgrade our solution, we need to be part of the decision making on the solution, but they might not have the experience or know-how about the system. So I was thinking, ahead of talking to the consulting firms who come in with their own expertise, their angle, their preferences, this could be a really helpful tool to help the less informed really become more informed about ERP solutions. So before you start talking to salespersons at different consulting firms to help you implement, it can really help you become more familiar with the language as well as the different systems, what they have to offer ahead of the sales pitch.
So in preparation, what we're using today is we're just using the default ChatGPT 3.5 model. It's just because not everybody pays for ChatGPT Plus. We're not all nerds like myself. Why am I saying this? However, so this will be the prompts that you can use if you just sign up for the free basic account. So let's go ahead and open up ChatGPT. Cool. Okay, so we've pasted the prompt in ChatGPT now. The scenario is, we're Bob from Bob's Plumbing. We started a company 10 years ago with 10 employees and now have become a global company with 10,000 employees. We need to move from Excel to an ERP to manage our company. We're looking for different enterprise resource planning systems. Please act as a consultant, in which I'll be asking questions. Any more things that we should be aware of when we're looking at this prompt?
I think this could be a really, really baseline, fundamental question, again, for people who are not as well versed in enterprise resource planning systems or ERPs, is just really, where do we even start? What are they? Where can I look?
So let's go ahead and press enter and see the output. Okay, and here is the output. What do we see in the output?
So really this is, ahead of, again, speaking to the in-life real salespersons. This is the opportunity to get that unbiased view. Basically, ChatGPT is acting as our consultant to give us the raw and real what's out there from an ERP perspective.
Let's go ahead and start to ask some more questions. For some of the things that are interesting when we chat about, ERPs, etc., we have major different ERPs, don't we?
We do, and I think, especially for those who aren't as well versed in the tech space, what questions do you even begin to start with? And you yourself, how do you avoid biases? So if I'm coming in from a change perspective, I'm going to be very curious about user interface, what's the best, user experience, etc. But that's not giving us the full picture. Someone who's in IT might want to think about scalability. How easy is it to configure or customize? Someone from a finance perspective may be looking at costing. So they're going to be looking at the different elements of the ERPs or any software solution to say, okay, where do we want to spend our money? Do we want to invest in hard assets like servers? Do we want things to be more on cloud, more from an OpEx perspective? So really when we were talking about this, we said, what are all the major parameters we want to consider across the board?
Yeah, and in designing it, we did come up with this. Please provide an output table that compares the different systems, like you mentioned, Microsoft AX, Oracle, SAP, including the following parameters, as you mentioned as well, the functionality in the different modules, scalability, flexibility, customization, configurability, cloud versus on-premises. And I think the thing that is nice is that one of the things that we want to do with this is put the pros in bold and the cons in italics when we are creating an output table. Any other points before we click run?
No, just, there's so much information you can read and churn through. Sometimes you don't even know where to start with the questions. So I love that this feature can give us a table to compare and contrast.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and click and see what happens. Okay, so I'm always just like, this is like really amazing because literally like in a few seconds, in less than a minute, we have all the parameters that we put in. We have the pros that are bolded, and then we have the cons that are in italics. What do you see?
No, I mean, firstly, I like that the information summarized. Often, senior leaders who need to make decisions about this don't have time to make decisions. So, not that they don't have time to make decisions, but they don't have time to mull over, do additional research, etc. One example you'll see here on scalability and flexibility, which I love, can you scroll up actually, sorry, is for us who've worked in software releases, we know this, but for people who haven't, they don't. I love where it says for Microsoft AX, it's really better suited for growing organizations. There's, I don't know.
In your experience, have you seen that, AX is more suitable for growing organizations, and something like SAP is, more suitable for businesses of all sizes, or Oracle is really for those large scale businesses?
I think this is pretty stereotypical and what the market tells us. So yeah, I've really only ever worked with AX and kind of that mid-sized growing type organization. So I really like that it gives you a nice informed decision, because maybe if you are a company of 500,000, you might not look at AX. You might look to one of the bigger guys like Oracle or SAP. Yeah, I mean, also just again, so when we talked earlier, some people might be really concerned about user experience, others around flexibility or just serving the needs of the organization. What I like on the user interfaces is pretty honest, maybe SAP is not as good looking as Oracle or Microsoft AX. So I would say if you are a mid-sized organization and you don't really see big growth and you want better user adoption, it's a Microsoft product. I would go for that. And especially if you're having change fatigue and adoption issues, it's like, if everything else in the assessment makes sense, then go for AX. Yeah. It's nice. I think the other thing that's nice to hear is that, because you've worked with these systems, I've worked with SAP, the output is actually pretty on point. That I know sometimes that ChatGPT can hallucinate some things, but this looks pretty spot on. And again, like you say, because leaders are needing to make decisions based on many different factors and don't have the full time or scale to really research this is so useful. Okay, so now, of course, we can ask a lot more questions. And I think one of the questions that, we're both brainstorming, and from my experience with SAP, is that, there's, of course, different modules that you can potentially purchase with these ERP systems. So in your experience, what sort of next questions would you have if you were somebody that is looking to adopt a new ERP? Yeah, what do you actually need to use? So if you look at your own business needs, what's essential to buy? I mean, a lot of systems are becoming a lot more modularized. There's additional add-ons that you can purchase, but what do I really need?
So that leads us to the next prompt, and in that next prompt we have come up with we will be using the ERP system for procurement, requisitions, employee data, payroll, master data. Which modules should we purchase in the ERP packages? And I think the big thing that we both like is, please create a table.
Keep it simple. You can tell we're consultants.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go ahead and press send. Okay, and it looks like it has come up with the different procurement modules. So what are you seeing in this table?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing, they have modules that support each of our needs, which is really good. But the thing I like is you can start to speak in terms of the ERPs, know how the modules are branded. I think there's, the good thing about ChatGPT, if we scroll below, is it really keeps us honest too. Yes, this is giving you comparative. It's helping you to understand a bit to what to look for, but you need to talk to an ERP expert at the end of the day. So this is certainly not wiping out the need for the expertise and the double clicking that the consulting firms can help you with.
Yeah, good one, good one. So now the big thing, of course, that we're all familiar with is the implementations. What's a good question that we can ask ChatGPT regarding implementations?
Look, expectation versus reality, we've all seen on Instagram. We now see it in the workplace with RFPs and getting the work done. So let's manage our expectations. We want it yesterday, yes, we know, but really, how much time should we expect to take to roll out a solution? Again, thinking greenfield, going from Excel through to actually automating our processes and launching an ERP.
Let's put in our next prompt, which is what's a rough implementation timeline for each of the solutions, including the modules above? Please make a table. And so here's the output, the implementation timeline for the 3 ERPs. What are your first thoughts on this?
It's looking about right. Clients do want these systems to be implemented quickly. And I think if we scroll down, it gives us reasons why we have a wide span. Data, testing, training, getting people on board, depending on where your organization's at today versus, especially in a greenfield where you're moving from very mechanical, very offline manual systems to a full-fledged ERP, it's going to take some time. Data quality, getting people on board to change ways of working, etc. I could see it stretching to a longer period, so it looks about right.
Nice. So then I think the big topic to talk about, if timelines are right, that's good. Let's talk about money. Show me the money.
Look, clients have got champagne taste, but tend to have beer salaries, so this is a good thing to avoid the shock factor. Sometimes you walk into discussions with clients and their jaws just drop when you give them the price. So let's reduce the shock factor.
Fair enough. Okay, so then we have come up with a prompt. And that prompt is, if we consider using a vendor, what are the potential costs for the above implementations regarding timelines, licensing, of course, hardware, and resources to implement? Provide your costs in USD and euros, just because it's nice to know. And so yeah, let's go ahead and let's try it out. Okay, so this is the output generated in a few seconds. It's always incredible to see this. This looks about right for SAP. This is kind of an okay ballpark. What do you see?
Yeah, I think it looks okay. Again, it would be interesting to know where your company is headquartered, where your team members are based, and also looking at the team that you're looking to bring on board. Often resourcing is quite a hefty bill. So again, talking to that ERP consultant and your consulting firm to understand how many team members are you going to have on site. Will you look at nearshore or offshore solutions if you're a bit more price conscious? Nonetheless, I think it gives you a good idea of the cost range. And again, I love the output at the end here where it really just says, you've got to talk to your implementation partners. You've got to figure out these nuances, what's going to make sense.
So we're talking about ERPs, we're talking about implementations. What's the next thing that we could be asking? Yeah,
again, it's about resourcing. So how many people do we expect to be required to implement the solution?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many extra chairs will we need in our office? Or what type of team do we think we'll need to liaise with from an implementation partner perspective?
Nice. So that leads us to the next prompt. Just how many people would be required to implement this for each of the 3 ERPs? Let's go ahead. Now we have the output.
I love the caveats, again, starting us with caveats. Just as we start to scan through, you're going to need a project manager, you're going to need actual people, functional consultants, or really subject matter experts with the domain, but also the tool, technical team, testing team. I love that they put in change management and training specialists as well.
Do you think this number, I don't know, maybe just because we both work in change, I'm like, one change management person?
Yeah, I think it's a little light. I've had lots of debates internally in consulting about this, but again, I think it looks at, it's important to understand what can be produced from a training perspective out of the system itself. Also, what does the partnership between the implementer and the client look like? So maybe you just bring in one change manager from the implementation side, but leverage internal resources on the client side to drive change, comms, maybe even learning and development team to drive the face-to-face training, quick reference guides, etc. So yeah, again, good conversations with your ERP expert will be helpful.
Yeah, really good point. Okay, so this wraps up the first video on this topic. It's super interesting. Yeah, what else?
So this is, again, just really, really good for you to think about the types of questions you might want to have in mind before you even start the RFP process.
So that's it from us. What can we expect in the next video?
Let's be selfish and talk about change and communication management as part of an ERP implementation. So starting with the discovery phase or initiation phase, depending on which solution you're using, we'll talk through how to mobilize your change team and some of the first few change deliverables.
I love it. Let's do it. Okay.
All right.
See you in the next video.
Bye.
Yeah, I forget what I'm saying.
Just to wrap up, that wraps everything up. And then I'll say...